My name is T. Barishede Samson. I'm the editor for this course. I'm glad to welcome you back to the continuation of our classes in CSC 206 Human-Computer Interactions. We are still in section 2, course unit 2, user-oriented perspective of human-computer interaction, cognitive human trust. The introduction is to remain the same, and the course objective of this course is to remain the same, but the learning outcome of this particular unit is, at the end of it, we expect the student to be familiar with different type of cognitive model, to also know available inspection method, to also know how to apply inquiry method on problem of cognition, to be able to explain prototyping method, and to be able to carry out evaluation using the test and metric method. So when we say cognitive human trust, what do we mean, or what are we trying to say? Cognitive human trust incorporates cognitive psychology and cognitive modeling. Cognitive psychology plays an important role in human-computer interaction, perception, memory, mental model and metaphor, knowledge representation, problem solving, error, and learning are all topics under cognitive psychology that have direct implication to human-computer interaction, in human-computer design. Cognitive modeling involves creating a computational model to estimate how long it takes people to perform a given task. Models are based on psychological principles and experimental studies to determine time for cognitive processing and motor movement. Cognitive modeling can be used to improve user interface or predict problem error and pitfall during design process. What they are trying to tell us in this, the simple explanation to this is that cognitive modeling is typically used to determine time taken for people to perform or carry out a given task. That is, they measure performance against time, because models are based on psychological principle or experimental study, but cognitive is allowed to process tasks against time. So, cognitive model system is a GOMS, is an acronym that stands for goal, operator, method, and selection rules. Let me take that again. GOMS is an acronym that stands for goal, operator, method, and selection rules. It is a family of techniques that analyze the user complexity of interactive system. Goal are what the user has to accomplish. An operator is an action performed in the service of the goal. A method is a sequence of operations that accomplish a goal, and selection rules specify which method should be used to satisfy a given goal based on context. What they are trying to say is that goal, operator, method, and selection rules are sequential approach that is used to carry out a certain that is an approach used to accomplish a goal in a given context. So, number one, the goals are the set out tasks or function that the user is determined to achieve, while the operators are all the step, you understand it, an action that is going to be taken to perform that goal to be achieved, while the method are the approach used in the process, and the set of rules or selection of rules are those rules that is used in the method to achieve the goals. So, human processor model, sometimes it is useful to break a task down and analyze each individual aspect separately. This allows the tester to locate specific area for improvement. To do this, it is necessary to understand how the human brain processes information. A model of the human processor is shown below. So, inspection method. So, whereby if we look at, we have keystroke level modeling is essential in a less comprehensive fashion of goal, operators, method, and selection rule that makes simplify assumption in order to what? To reduce calculation time and complexity. So, inspection method. This usability evaluation method involves observations of users by an experimenter, or the testing or an evaluation of a program by an expert reviewer. They provide more quantitative data as tasks can be timed and recorded. Card resorting. Card resorting is a way that involves users in duping information for a website usability review. Participants in a card sorting section are asked to organize the content from a website in a way that makes sense to them. Participants review items from a website and then group this item into categories. Card sorting helps to learn how users think about the content and how they will organize the information on the website. Card sorting helps to build the structure for a website, decided what to put on the home page, and label the home page categories. It is also helped to ensure that information is organized on the site in a way that is logical to users. Ethnographic. Ethnographic analysis is derived from anthropology. Field observations are taken at the site of a possible users, which track the artifact work such as post, it note, its item on desktop, shortcuts, and item in trash bin. These observations also gather the sequence of work and interaction that determine the user's typical day. Heuristic evaluation. Heuristic evaluation is a usability engineering method for finding and assessing usability problems in a user interface design. As part of an interactive design process, it involves having a small set of evaluators examining the interface and using recognized usability principles. The heuristics, it is the most popular of the usability inspection method as it is quick, cheap, and easy. Heuristic evaluation was developed to aid in design of computer user interface design. It relies on expert reviewers to discover usability problems and then categorize and rate them by a set of principles. It is widely used based on its speed and cost-effective Jacob-Nielsen list of item heuristic. It is the most commonly used in industry by determining which guidelines are violated. The usability of this device can be determined. So heuristic evaluation continues. Usability inspections. Usability inspection is a review of a system based on set of guidelines. The review is conducted by a group of experts who are deeply familiar with concept of usability and design. The experts focus on lists of areas in design that have been shown to be troublesome for users. Pluralistic inspection. Pluralistic inspections are meetings where users, developers, and human factors, people meet together to discuss and evaluate step by step of that scenario. As more people inspect the scenario for problems, the higher the probability to find problems. In addition, the more interaction in teams, the faster usability issues are resolved. Consistencies in inspections. Consistency inspections. Expert designers review products or projects to ensure consistency across multiple products to look if it does things in the same way as their own design. Activities analysis. Activities analysis is a usability method used in preliminary stage of development to get a sense of situation. It involves an investigator observing users as they work in field, also referred to as users observation. It is useful for specifying users requirements and studying currently used tasks and subtasks. The data collected is qualitative and useful for defining the problem. It should be used when, when you wish to frame what is needed or what do we want to know. Enquiry method. The following usability evaluation method involve collecting qualitative data from user. Although the data collected is subjective, it provides valuable information on what the user wants. Task analysis. Task analysis means learning about users' goals and users' ways of working. Task analysis can also mean figuring out what more specific tasks users must do to meet those goals and what steps they must take to accomplish those tasks. Along with the users and task analysis, we often do a third analysis. Understanding users' environment, physical, social, cultural, and technological environment. Focus group. A focus group is a focused discussion where a moderator leads a group of participants through a set of questions on a particular topic, although typically used as a marketing tool. Focus groups are sometimes used to evaluate usability. Used in product definition stage, a group of 6 to 10 users are gathered to discuss what they desire in a product. An experienced focus group facilitator is hired to guide the discussion to area of interest for developers. Focus groups are typically videotaped to help get verbatim codes, and clips are often used to summarize opinion. The data gathered not usually quantitative but can help get an idea of a targeting group opinion. Like I said in the earlier unit that we discussed, 8-stage task analysis. Survey have the advantage of being questionnaire and survey. So have the advantage of being inexpensive, require to test equipment, and results reflect the user's opinion. When written carefully and given to actual users who have experience with the product and knowledge of design, survey provide useful feedback on the strong and weak area of usability of a design. This is a very common method and often does not appear to be a survey but just a warranty card. Prototyping method. Rapid prototyping. Rapid prototyping is a method used in the early stage of development to validate and refine the usability of a system. It can be used to quickly and cheaply evaluate user interface design without the need for an expensive working model. This can help remove hesitation to change the design since it is implemented before any real program begins. One such method of the rapid prototyping is paper prototyping. Soft system methodology, subject testing methodology. This usability evaluation method involves in testing of a subject for the most quantitative data, usually recorded on video. They provide task completion time and allow for observation of attitude. Remote usability testing. Remote usability testing is a technique that exploits user environment, e.g. home or office, transforming it into a usability laboratory where user observation can be done with screen sharing application. Thinking aloud protocols. This thinking aloud protocol is a method of gathering data that is used in both usability and psychological study. It involves getting a user to verbalize their thoughts process as they perform a task or set of tasks. Often an instructor is present to prompt the user to be more vocal as they work. Similar to the subject in tandem method, it is useful in pinpointing problems and relatively simple to set up. Additionally, it can provide insights to the user's attitude, which cannot be usually be discerned from a survey or questionnaire. Subject in tandem. Subject in tandem is pairing of subjects in a usability test to gather important information on the ease of use of a product. Subjects tend to think out loud and through their verbalized thoughts, designer learn where the problem area of the design are. Subjects very often provide solutions to the problem area to make the product easier to use. So others method, which is one of them is cognitive walkthrough. Cognitive walkthrough is a method of evaluating the user interaction of a working prototype or final product. It is used to evaluate the system ease of learning. Cognitive walkthrough is useful to understand the user's thought process and decision making when interacting with a system, specifically for first time or infrequent users. Benchmarking. Benchmarking creates standardized test material for a specific type of design. Four key characteristics are considered when establishing a benchmark: time to do the core task, time to fix errors, time to learn applications, and the functionality of the system. Once there is a benchmark, other designs can be compared to it to determine usability of that system. Meaning that there's a standard for approach that any new system that is developed before it can be subject to use need to be benchmarked against the existing standard. So meta-analysis. Meta-analysis is a statistical procedure to combine results across studies to integrate the findings. The phrase was coined in 1976 as a quantitative literature review. This type of evaluation is very powerful for determining the usability of a device because it combines multiple studies to provide very accurate quantitative support. Evaluating with tests and metrics. Regardless of how carefully a system is designed, all theories must be tested using usability tests. Usability tests involve typical users using the system or products in a realistic environment. Observation of the user's behavior, emotions, and difficulties while performing different tasks often identify areas of improvement for the system. Prototypes. It is often very difficult for designers to conduct usability tests with the exact system being designed. Cost constraint, size, and design constraint usually led the designer to creating a prototype of the system. Instead of creating the complete final system, the designer may test different sections of the system, thus making several small models of each component of the system. The type of the usability prototype may vary from using paper model, index cards, and drawing model, or storyboards. Prototypes are able to be modified quickly, often are faster and easier to create with less time invested by designer and are more apt to change designs, although sometimes are not an adequate representation of the whole system, are often not durable, and testing results may not be parallel to those of the actual system. Yes, prototyping is just a way to check the segment functionality of every system. Because of the cost constraint, you can't build a complete prototype of a model system, but you can build the segment to test the functionality of each stages, which is not the actual representation of the entire system, but at least it helps to fix immediate problem and see and to improve on the quality of what is being developed. Entropy. Metrics. Design must use usability metrics to identify what it is they are going to measure, or the usability metrics. These metrics are often variables and change in conjunction with the scope and goals of the project. The number of subjects being tested can also affect usability metrics, as it is often easier to focus on specific demographic qualitative design phases, such as general usability can be the task be accomplished, and user satisfaction are also typically done with smaller group of subjects. Using inexpensive prototype on small user group provide more detailed information because of the more interactive atmosphere. The designer's ability to what? To focus more on the individual users. Testing the metrics. As the designs become more complex, the testing must become more formalized. Testing equipment will become more sophisticated and testing metrics become more quantitative. With a more refined prototype, designer often tests effectiveness, efficiency, and subjective satisfaction by asking the user to complete various tasks. These categories are measured by the percentage that completes the task, how long it takes to complete the task, ratios of the success to failure to complete the task, time spent on errors, the number of errors, rating scales of the satisfaction, numbers of times users seems frustrated, etc. Additional observation of the users give designer insight on navigation difficulties, control, conceptual model, or etc. The ultimate goals of analyzing these metrics is to discover a prototype design that users like to successfully perform given tasks. Benefit of the usability. The key benefit of usability are increased user efficiency, reduced development costs, and reduced support costs. Those are the three key. Increased user efficiency, reduced development costs, and reduced support costs. That's the reason why all this is required. So, corporate integration. By working to improve said factors, corporations can achieve their goals of increased output at lower cost, while potentially creating optimal level of customer satisfaction. There are numerous reasons why each of these factors correlates to overall improvement. For example, making a piece of software user's interface easier to understand will reduce the need for extensive training. The improved interface would also tend to lower the time needed to perform necessary tasks, and so will both raise the productivity level for employees and reduce development time and cost. That's what they try to say here. So, in conclusion, all factors analyzed above aid the design process and increase usability in the workplace. They also aid the fostering several responses and along with any positive feedback. Workers who enjoy their work do it better, stay longer in the face of temptations, and contribute ideas and enthusiasm to the evolution of the enhanced product. So, to summarize this, cognitive human trust comprises cognitive psychology and modeling. Cognitive psychology studies human traits such as perception, memory, mental models, and metaphor, among others, those that have direct implications to human-computer interaction design. Cognitive modeling enables estimation of how long it takes people to perform a given task. Inspection method is the process of observing users by an experimenter or the testing and evaluation of the program by an expert reviewer. Inquiry method involves collecting qualitative data from users. Such data provide valuable information on what the user wants. Prototypes enable the designer test different sections of the system by making several small models of each component of the system. Evaluation method test and correct errors in implemented design. I'm glad that you all have been able to at least understand what we mean by cognitive modeling and how cognitive human trust and what it comprises, both psychology and both cognitive psychology and modeling. So you have been able to. These are bring us to the end of this class. Thanks for listening. Hope to see you in the next class.